Spyro 2 and myself have a special kind of relationship. You know when you're trying to pee, but you can't, and you just close your eyes and go back to a familiar mental sanctuary? Well, that's me, and Spyro 2 is my choice of drug. There truly is nothing as soothing as imagining the windy bliss of autumn plains or bright sunny euphoria of summer forest. And of course, the soothing chimes of winter tundra.
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
The original trilogy of PS1 Spyro games had a certain relaxing nature to them. The music, the otherworldly atmosphere, there's never a sense of urgency unless you're playing like the Speedway levels, or the one where you gotta kill the dinosaurs.
We added about 40 mini-games. Saving the little cavemen from the giant lizards is the hardest puzzle.
Spyro 1 was all about scrubbing levels for gems and dragons to rescue, and just soaking up the atmosphere.
Ah, Spyro, thanks.
Spyro 2 is all about completion.
Every level, whereas in Spyro 1 you just did the same thing, in Spyro 2 you're now doing at least 3 very different things from each other.
I'm not so sure if I'd say very different. Not that that's a bad thing. You're still Spyro, jumping, gliding, charging around, collecting stuff. It's rare that you'll have an objective or minigame that changes this foundation. This isn't so much the case for Spyro 3, but that's a topic for another day.
I reckon you'd be one of them dragons then.
Yeah.
Despite this, Spyro 2 does get a bit more complicated. I mean, like, a little more complicated. This is still a children's game about a purple dragon we're talking about. Insomniac Games decided to bolster the world of Spyro with larger levels, more characters, and real boss fights this time around.
This game has over 100 brand new characters, so that players will feel like they've entered a brand new world.
You have the main antagonist Ripto along with his two cronies Crush and Gulp serving as the three primary bosses. Ripto gets far more screen time and interaction with the heroes than the antagonists of the other games in the trilogy, making him more memorable. But as far as his character goes, he embodies the small angry man archetype pretty much to a T.
Despicable little creature! I'll kill you!
Crush and Gulp are just animals who follow Ripto around and do what he says. I do feel kind of bad for these fictional polygon creatures. Compared to the villains in the PS1 Crash series, which was wrapping up by the time the first Spyro game came out, it's really no competition. Neo Cortex is a staple to that franchise, and for good reason. He has a memorable design and serves as a foil to Crash. Where Crash is act first and think never, Cortex is calculating, anxious, shows frustration, and even starts to doubt himself and give up, letting a higher power take the reins after the second game. And he used to be voiced by Clancy Brown.
Defeated again! This is not fair! This is the part where I'm supposed to be angry, full of rage, incensed beyond belief. Maybe I should retire to a nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
Where Cortex is more nuanced and complicated, Ripto is just angry and doesn't like dragons. That's his character.
I hate dragons!
I don't mind his design. I think it's actually a good mix-up from Nasty Nork, going from someone who looks like he could bench press your mother to this guy. I'm aware Ripto was brought back in future non-Insomniac Spyro games, like the PS2 and Game Boy ones, and to be fair, I haven't touched those apart from Enter the Dragonfly on a demo disc 20 plus years ago, and that didn't really encourage me to continue with the series.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Hey, maybe I'm wrong and someone got it right, but from what I've seen of those games, I kinda doubt it.
If there's anything I hate more than a dragon, it's a purple dragon!
This also might be a good time to quickly talk about the Reignited trilogy that released in 2018. This was a collection of the PS1 trilogy, remade in shiny modern visuals.
Look, there he is right there.
Spyro, what up, baby?
Bottom line, I think this is a great collection and well worth your money. As a child who grew up with these games, I certainly have my nitpicks, and I think the originals will always have a certain charm about them that will never be reproduced. Mostly everything I'm gonna say here about the PS1 original can also be applied to the remake. It's a from the ground up remake, but nothing has been changed conceptually. Like the original, Reignited is fantastic, and manages to capture the same fun, chilled out collectathon experience.
Spit that fire one time!
The story of Spyro 2 picks up right after the last game. Understandably, Spyro just wants to go on vacation.
Somewhere warm, somewhere sunny. Dragon Shores. Yeah.
He's intercepted and forced into labor by a small resistance group that represents the denizens of the game's new setting, Avalar.
And they spit fire like this. They sound much more dangerous than Ripto.
That's exactly the point. A dragon is our only chance of stopping Ripto, and you know it.
This group consists of the Professor, Allura, and Hunter. They want Spyro to kill their tyrant, Ripto, who hates dragons. Like them or not, these will be his friends for the rest of the trilogy.
Whoa, rough landing. Hi, which way's the beach?
Ripto shows up, introduces himself to Spyro and the player, makes some sniffing noises, and we're off.
Well, someone forgot to invite me to the party. Were you trying to keep something from me? A dragon? You brought a dragon to Avalar?
I have to follow Ripto and see what he's up to. I'll meet you in Summer Forest, okay?
Hey, wait a minute. How do we get ourselves into these messes, pal?
I kind of like how Spyro begrudgingly just says, okay, I guess I'll do this. Arguably, it would have been more believable if he rejected the call to adventure at first, although that's probably too far off from his character in Spyro 1, and I don't think Insomniac was really that ambitious at this point. I think they landed on a good middle ground, just having him be alright. Spyro getting recasted from Carlos Elizraki to Tom Kenny, voice of SpongeBob, definitely helps with this idea.
Where's Nasty Nork? I'll torch him.
Hey, stop staring. Haven't you guys ever seen a dragon before?
You're a dragon?
You got a problem with that, pussy?
We're then thrown into the game's first stage, Glimmer. This is where the European version of the game, Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer, gets its name. From what I can find, this was done for marketing purposes. Insomniac thought that a more fantastical name would appeal to a European audience, while a title with the word rage in it would appeal more to an American audience. I love the alliterations, but maybe they're right because I am American and I do prefer Ripto's Rage. It's a bit less of a mouthful. Ultimately, though, I think it makes way more sense to name the game after the antagonist rather than one level in the game, even if it is the first level, and doesn't hold much bearing on the plot. It's brought up later that its connection to the Dragon World was stronger, so that's why they used it as like the landing zone for Spyro. Despite that, Glimmer is never brought up again in terms of the story or plot or in any cutscenes. These guys are pretty funny though.
Hi, Spyro! Welcome to Glimmer!
Very solid first level. Those of you who explore around a little bit might find a ladder we can't access yet. Don't worry, we'll come back to that. Fantastic music, great level design, the missions are fun, although it does highlight one criticism that I have for Spyro 2 that was not present in Spyro 1, and that is these mandatory fairy tutorial conversations.
Hi, Spyro.
One thing really charming about Spyro 1 is how alone you felt. You know, you're the one baby dragon who has to grow up and save all the adults. No one's there to help you but yourself. I mean, I guess the dragons you free do give you hints and tips, and talk about pressing like the square button.
Spyro, my friend, how about a hint on gliding?
No.
But you could always skip those. Everybody skipped those after the first few. And sometimes you got some cool flavor text in them. Not the case with this fairy though.
Sparks, the dragonfly following you around is your health indicator, Spyro.
It falls back on that old principle that a ton of YouTube videos talk about, and I think Shigeru Miyamoto first said it, maybe, or he stole it from somebody else. And that is the level design and the game in general should teach the player without explicitly telling them. Let the player learn for themselves in a safe environment. Nobody likes to be stopped and told what to do, especially in something that they paid for. Obviously, there are games that are the exception to this rule, but probably not something you should do when designing a Spyro or a Mario game. Upon reaching the end of Glimmer, the inhabitants give us a talisman, we go through the portal, and arrive at Spyro 2's first hub world, Summer Forest, where Allura is there to meet us.
What are you, some kind of goat?
I'm a fawn, you dork.
Oh, sorry.
Did you meet
Iconic.
Glimmer?
Yeah, they gave me a souvenir.
So iconic, guys. This is why I love this game.
Gave you a talisman?
What?
Fucking dorks in the chat, dude.
Spyro's going to help us collect the talismans.
I am?
Yes.
If you come across any orbs, they're important too, but I'll tell you about them later.
Oh yeah, orbs, no big deal. I'm sure they're not required to beat the game or anything. Definitely wouldn't be beneficial to start focusing on them now. I'm just kidding, it's a baby's game. It's not that bad. It's not like Rayman 1. This is where I think Spyro 2 really kicks off and shows its quality. The design and ambiance of these hub worlds are near perfection. Let's start simple and ask the question, what makes a hub world work mechanically? Well, first of all, it needs to be the right size relative to how much stuff there is in it. Nobody wants a big empty hub that takes forever to walk across with nothing to do. Sonic 06 being the principal example of a hub world too big and too boring. On the flip side, you don't want your hub world to be too small. You might as well just make a menu. I mean, obviously this is all relative, and Spyro 2 does a great job. Big enough to have a nice ambiance, small enough to where I don't get lost. A hub world is kind of like a book, and stages of that hub world are kind of like chapters in that book. It organizes the chapters to create a larger narrative. This analogy only kind of works because I think there is some value in doing stages in a hub world out of order. It creates some nuance between my playthrough of a game and my friend's playthrough of a game. What I'm trying to say is it helps if there's some loose navigational progression in some hub worlds. Our brains like to categorize things beginning, middle, and end. Look at Peach's castle in Super Mario 64. You start outside of it, you go inside, you go through those big double doors. Every time you go through double doors, it feels like you're progressing. Every time you go up or downstairs, you make a mental note of where you've come and where you've gone. Lastly, you gotta have them secrets. Nobody likes seeing an offshoot snake path on their mini-map, following it all the way down, and not getting rewarded. Maybe it's just me personally, but I think it's so bad for a game to not anticipate this because it plants the idea in my mind to say, hey, don't get too excited. It comes off as lazy and like the developers didn't expect you to want to explore. Luckily, Spyro 2 does not have this problem. There are gems everywhere, hidden orbs, and secret levels that come in the form of speedways, making a return from Spyro 1.
Sorry, Spyro. I'd love to teach you how to swim underwater, but not as much as I'd love to take your treasure.
This is Moneybags. He's a bear with a vast knowledge of swimming, climbing, and opening doors. Along with holding the keys to everything in Avalar, Moneybags will teach Spyro to swim, climb ladders, and headbutt. Water is no longer a hazard like it was in Spyro 1, although we can't explore the lake in front of Summer Forest Castle until we pay Moneybags to learn how to dive underwater. I haven't touched on him yet, but we did see him in Glimmer where we had to pay him 100 gems to open a bridge. If you're good, you can actually skip paying him and jump over the gap yourself. They introduced Moneybags so early on to let the player know this game is not about getting to the end. This is not Crash Bandicoot. This is about running around, combing the world, getting gems, talismans, etc. He's essentially a barrier to entry, much like the balloonists in Spyro 1. But I mean, I much prefer Moneybags. They did a phenomenal job casting him and the dialogue is just great.
Say, Spyro, you see this wall here? I bet you're dying to know what's on the other side. If only I had a few more gems, I might be able to remember how to lower the wall.
And I always say no to him at first just to get that extra bit of dialogue.
Okay, but as far as you know, the portal to Dragon Shores could be just on the other side of this wall, and there's only one way to find out. Ta-ta!
He's just such a lovable prick.
Yes, the sparkling beauty of those gems seems to have jogged my memory.
We also get to speak to Hunter in Summer Forest, who gives us a gliding tutorial. Hunter embodies the comic relief scaredy cat archetype. I really prefer his design and just overall character in the originals versus the remake. The remakes just paint him as very incompetent. He's much more apathetic in the original game. He's not willing to lay his life down, and you can't really blame him for that.
Hunter, do something! Quick!
Hey, give that back!
Well, I tried.
Here is where Hunter teaches us how to perform the new hover ability. This essentially boosts you up a little bit if you're short of a ledge at the end of a glide. Press triangle mid-flight and Spyro will get that little boost up. It sounds small, but it's actually one of my favorite improvements from Spyro 1.
Wow, you're a pretty good athlete.
So we complete our gliding tutorial and Hunter gives us an orb. I don't know why he didn't give us this in the first place. I'm pretty sure Hunter is aware that we need these. The smartest one in the group, the professor, also does this in some future levels, so I guess we can just toss it up to the fact that it's a video game. So once you've finished your gem and orb collecting in Summer Forest, you have the choice of going to two excellent levels, Idle Springs and Colossus. When I think about Spyro 2, these are the two levels that come to mind. The soundtrack, composed by the drummer from the band The Police, Stuart Copeland, is especially good in these two levels. From the perspective of gameplay progression, it's the same kind of deal as Glimmer.
We have what we call talisman challenges and orb challenges. The talisman challenges are more straightforward. They are required to complete a level. Orb challenges are more difficult. They're off the main path, and they're something that the hardcore players can really sink their teeth into.
Just getting to the end of the stage will grant you that stage's talisman. This might require more steps in some stages than others. Idle Springs, you gotta kill the tiki men that are harassing the workers. Colossus, you just gotta talk to these monks to have them open doors and activate platforms. I hate to keep bashing the Reignited trilogy, but what they did to the monks chanting left me really disappointed. Maybe I'm ignorant and the old chanting was offensive, but I can't think of why they would change it.
By concentrating, I should be able to open this door for you.
There's also a great bit at the end of Colossus where one of the monks asks Spyro to torch a Yeti, but instead of saying torch like in the dialogue box, the voice actor says kill.
Even though I'm a vegetarian, I think you should kill that Yeti. He's pretty tough though.
The Reignited trilogy unfortunately corrected this.
I think you should torch that Yeti.
One of the more notable orb challenges here has Spyro playing hockey. This was actually inspired by the dev team taking breaks during work to do just that, go play hockey. Or broomball.
I love the hockey. The ice skating. Hockey just, it was just kind of a little novelty idea. We put hockey in the game. And it worked. I've seen people in the office play it and just, hockey, I want to play more hockey.
Idle Springs has some great vibes. I adore this level. It's probably as simple as they come in terms of Spyro levels. It's short, the enemies don't pose much of a threat, although I do specifically remember having to ask my mom for help on this light up the blocks orb puzzle. It was really stressing me out back then, so thank you, Mom. And shout outs to all moms. We also see the return of the supercharge here from Spyro 1. It's very fast and unwieldy, just like it was then. But this probably being the first time you're gonna see it, they don't put any like bottomless pits or anything. It's all in a nice, safe, enclosed space. Doesn't mean it's not going to take you like 5 tries though. Before we move on to the rest of the worlds in Summer Forest, let's talk about one thing that is different between the worlds in Spyro 1 and 2 that you may have noticed. All of the Spyro 1 worlds had this fantasy theme. The design and aesthetic was always rooted in magic, medieval beasts. It was a setting you would find in a story about ye old dragons and knights. I mean, maybe not all of them. I don't know what treetops has to do with the Middle Ages. Spyro 2 pulls inspiration from a bunch of different cultures from all parts of the world. It kind of fulfills the trope of being a globe-trotting adventure. And while the plot does offer an explanation for this, I understand why it might be a little alienating for people coming from Spyro 1. Spyro 1 levels shared the design of the hub world, that of which they reside in, whereas in Spyro 2, the Summer Forest levels are not all about summer or forests. I mean, we just got back from like the Himalayas world. Something else new in Spyro 2 is all the friendly NPCs running around. Definitely makes it feel less lonely, and sometimes the NPCs will actually talk about doing activities in other worlds, making Avalar as a whole feel a bit more connected.
He has our tickets to tonight's hockey game in Colossus Valley. Here, take this crystal. I traded some hockey tickets for it.
And I'm not saying that one design strategy is necessarily better than the other. Personally, overall, I prefer the Spyro 2 approach. Every world has its own NPCs, its own flag, its own problem that needs to be solved. These are things that help the worlds become distinct from one another. For me, this equates to higher highs and lower lows, depending on if I enjoy the level theme and aesthetic or not. And the quality of the orb missions definitely play a part in that. So once we've done and dusted Colossus and Idle Springs, the remaining levels in Summer Forest can be accessed in castle walls. We'll need the swim ability from Moneybags to access these. Here we have Sunny Beach, which is a very bright beach-themed level where you escort some baby turtles from point A to point B, and you have Hurricos, one of the more gloomy levels in Spyro. There's always a constant thunderstorm going on here, and you'll find these big orange enemies always accompanied by a robot. This might be a bit familiar for those of you who have played another Insomniac game, but ultimately I think the level design is kind of messy. There seems to be more of a lack of recognizable landmarks in this level. The beginning, middle, and end all kind of blend together and look the same. Still very solid characters and enemy designs. The windmill orb challenge is fun. The one with the grimace monsters stealing the electricity orbs is a little annoying. Still, I think fans of this level will agree that the atmosphere is peak for Spyro.
Hi, Spyro. It's a good thing you're here. If you can help shepherd those baby turtles over there to safety, I'll be mighty grateful.
Was this guy like sick when he recorded that line? Sunny Beach has you constantly pushing this tortoise around to activate switches, which to to be fair, he's actually pretty smart about going the direction that you flame or charge him to. But, you know, I play Sonic games, so gotta go fast, and this man's slowing down my pace. That and it just being a water level knocks it a few pegs down for me, but I gotta give credit, I hold all Spyro 2 levels at a pretty high standard. Plus, I think the music here is just okay. Not saying it doesn't fit, just my personal preference. I like my Spyro music a little moodier. I am a very big fan of the minigame where you gotta protect the tortoises from getting cooked. You actually can't play this minigame until you get the climb ability later, but for the sake of pacing, I thought I'd talk about it now. The chef bird creature who initiates the minigame always gets a laugh out of me.
Rats! You said every turtle on the beach. Here, take this. I was gonna use it to buy potatoes, but now I don't need it.
And on a positive note, the Reignited trilogy's voice actor is really good.
You saved every turtle on the beach. Here, take this. I was gonna use it to buy potatoes, but now I don't need it.
Both of these stages are fine. I don't really think there are any bad stages in Spyro 2, apart from maybe one we'll get to later. Next up is Aquaria Towers, which is actually blocked by a wall that Moneybags will only lower if you pay him 400 gems. This is an aquatic world where the seahorse denizens have had their water stolen. Spyro is tasked with opening these valves and making the world wet again. Not a bad level. It's very quick to run through if you know what you're doing and just trying to get the talisman. There is a section where you're required to pay Moneybags to ride in his submarine to bypass these mechanical sharks. You can actually come back to this section later and take on the sharks yourself with the Super Flame power-up. Essentially how power-ups work in this game, in every level you'll see at least one pair of pylons with a number in between them. That number represents the amount of enemies you must defeat before that pylon becomes active with its power-up. You've probably noticed up to this point, but enemies don't drop gems like they did in Spyro 1 and like they will in Spyro 3. Instead they drop their soul, and the soul will fly to the pylons. This is really cool because if you don't know where the pylon with the power-up is, you can just follow the enemy soul and you'll find it. It doesn't make any real sense, but it makes a lot of game sense, so big ups to you, Insomniac. Other than that, you got this stupid mini-game with Hunter where you gotta fly through these bubble rings on a manta ray. It's not terrible, but it's one of those mini-games where it rips the foundation of Spyro gameplay and has you do something totally different, so I'm just not a big fan of those in general. After we collect the talisman in Aquaria Towers, that leaves us with 6, allowing us to fill the requirement to enter Crush's dungeon. As we're entering Crush's dungeon, we are rewarded with a flashback scene showing how Ripto entered Avalar.
You see, last week in the winter tundra, the professor was working on some new super portal technology.
There, that's the last orb in place. Now let's see. All we need are some coordinates.
Yeah, how about 22475? That's my birthday.
No dragons. Say hello to your new king.
You might be quick to blame Hunter for all this, but I would actually blame the professor. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think there was a reason given to why we're making this giant portal. I mean, I suppose from like a resource gathering perspective, it would be convenient to have a portal that could just go anywhere. I'm just saying, the professor asked for some coordinates without specifying. I have no pity for the man. So we fight Ripto's first dinosaur minion, Crush. I want to start by saying the music track here is an absolute bop. How good is the sound effect from the shockwave? Hats off yet again to Stuart Copeland. As far as the actual fight goes, it is a major step up from what we were seeing in Spyro 1.
In Spyro 2, the bosses are big. They're badass. Can I say badass? They're badass.
Spyro 1 bosses were more extensions of the levels themselves. These are more akin to Crash Bandicoot bosses, where you have to memorize attack patterns and wait for your opportunity to move in. Being that Crush is the first one, it's not too difficult. He's shielded when he's standing on these red and blue pads. The blue ones allow him to jump and create a shockwave that you can jump over. The red ones allow him to shoot fireballs, which you can charge past pretty easily. Flame him while he transitions in between pads. He'll bang his mallet, causing some rocks to fall on him, which will damage him. He'll eventually start to chase you with the mallet, but just keep that square button held down and you'll be a-okay. For a 3D character platformer boss, I think this is a fantastic start. It doesn't fall into common pitfalls that a lot of other games do, where there's a lot of downtime in the fight. Even when that shield is up, you're doing something, you're constantly dodging attacks. It keeps you engaged, and I'm happy to say, bosses are only going to get better from here.
Now, Crush!
You may have been able to defeat that simpleton, but Gulp will be more than a match for you.
Bring it on, pussy.
With Crush gone, we follow Ripto to the next and largest hub world, Autumn Plains. Before that, we see how Moneybags is doing.
If Ripto were here, I'd give him a piece of my mind. In fact, I'd give him a lot more than that. I was a champion bantamweight boxer at university, and I still know a few moves. Take that, and that. Boom. Why you?
Plains is not only my favorite hub world, but probably my favorite place in all of Spyro. It has one of the most beautiful skyboxes ever seen on the PlayStation. The architecture and music track provide some great ambiance. Fall is also my favorite season, so I'm definitely speaking with some bias. Coming back to this as an adult, I'm really impressed with the colors that they used. When you think fall, you think about bright oranges and browns, accented with a spooky theme. But the color palette here is pretty reserved. There's a lot of washed out greens, dull yellows and oranges. It makes it feel a bit more natural and less processed. It also plays host to the largest amount of levels in Spyro 2, the first of which being Spyro 2's premier level, Skelos Badlands. It's the level on the title screen, it was in a lot of the promotional material. It's obvious Insomniac was touting this pretty hard. Is it as good as they want us to think it is?
That is correct.
If you've ever seen one of those Spyro level tier lists, Skelos Badlands is always in the top 10, right next to like Dark Hollow and Fireworks Factory. As you make your way through, you'll find the main path dissolves into these smaller islands surrounded by lava. This does a really good job emphasizing the difficulty spike from the Summer Forest levels. It's certainly nothing crazy, I mean, this is still Spyro. Touching the lava isn't instant death, it plays by the Mario 64 rules where Spyro gets popped up and takes a point of damage. This level really shines in terms of the power-up offered here, as it lets Spyro temporarily walk on the lava like it was normal ground. Gems and other objectives that were seemingly inaccessible can now be gathered. Spyro's new Spit ability is also highlighted here.
We also have Super Shot, which is a targeting mechanic that Spyro uses in the game. He gets it through power-ups, and it's great. It's like having a shoot-'em-up type game in Spyro.
That's a very inflated way of saying Spyro can now spit rocks at enemies. As simple as it might be, Super Shot or Spit is a welcome mechanic. The last thing I want to cover in Skelos Badlands is something we alluded to earlier, and that's the Save the Cavemen orb challenges.
Even experienced gamers need 10 or 15 tries.
If you weren't aware, that's Mark Cerny. He worked on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and basically made the PS4 and 5 from a bunch of sticks. So I mean, if he's saying this is hard. The objective here is to kill all of these lizards before they eat any of the cavemen. The lizards all hatch from these eggs on their own timers and are assigned a caveman each. It takes a lot of spatial awareness and trial and error, to be honest. There's 2 trials of it you gotta do, and the first one's no big deal. The second one proves to be a bit more difficult. You can tell they put some effort into that failure state animation. As a child, it probably did take me around 20 tries. The playthrough for this video took me 8, and that's with 20 plus years of experience. But relative to other orb challenges, it's so quick and it's easy to reset, most players are going to be fine. And in my opinion, the hardest orb challenge is yet to come. Next is Crystal Glacier. This acts as the sister level to Skelos Badlands, reusing some assets and character models and remixing them into a snowy theme this time around. This is the most obvious pair of sister levels. In fact, Glimmer and Hurricos are the only 2 levels in the entire game that don't fit into some kind of pairing. Early into development, this was actually incorporated into the names of the levels as well. This is why there's a few instances of characters referencing other levels using the incorrect name.
Now we can take our honeymoon in Colossus Springs and see the idols.
Obviously, they settled on not doing the paired names, probably to mask the fact that they reused assets. At the end of the day, I think using these partnered levels helped them more than it hurt them, as most levels feel different enough from their counterpart. Crystal Glacier probably is the worst offender out of the bunch. It's certainly on the more forgettable side. I mean, the ice level is such an overdone trope, and I think Spyro 1 and even Spyro 3 had the better ice levels. The music track is a major downgrade from Skelos Badlands, and the orb challenges leave more more to be desired. One's a waiting game and the other is a test of if you've been doing the speedway levels or not. Not my least favorite, not even a bad level, just more on the forgettable side. We have 2 more levels to get to on the outside of the castle walls in Autumn Plains, those being Zephyr and Breeze Harbor. These two are also a pairing, and a unique pairing at that because the 2 inhabitants of these worlds are at war with each other. You have the birds of Breeze Harbor versus the blob muck-looking creatures of Zephyr. Breeze Harbor is known for its great vibe, fantastic music track, and infamous orb challenge.
Okay, so this is where my inner rage comes out, and this becomes a rage compilation.
This Pelican Man wants you to collect 50 gears on this trolley. You can move right, left, shoot the cannon, jump to avoid obstacles. What makes this difficult is that it all must be done in one go. On top of that, the track you're riding on is not linear. You'll need to interact with these switches by shooting them to change the trajectory of the trolley. Otherwise, you'll just be riding in a circle. But if you're completely new to this orb challenge and you just want to know where all the memes come from, that would be the fail state.
Trouble with the trolley, eh? Trouble with the trolley, eh?
It truly takes a few minutes of just pure concentration, mainly due to the amount of gears you have to collect. The lizard killing in Skelos Badlands was hard, but at least it only lasted like 20 seconds. Missing a single gear will force you to loop all the way back around.
No!
I definitely had some trouble with this one as a child, but maybe it's because my ADHD is a little better than it once was. As an adult, I don't find this one that bad. The worst is yet to come. Zephyr has some orb challenges that are frustrating in a different way. There's a puzzle that involves planting seeds to create platforms and reach a higher height, and the cowlick herding mission. The latter involves finding and herding these creatures into their pen. Most people find this one frustrating because of how large the level is and how many cowlicks there are spread around it. On top of that, the actual herding process with charging and flaming can be very tedious. 2 cowlicks are cleverly hidden at the bottom of a trench and you need to use the super flame ability to get them out of the trench. All in all, Breeze Harbor and Zephyr are a pretty good time. It's definitely where the orb challenges start to ramp up in complexity and difficulty. Let it be noted, we haven't run into an orb requirement yet in terms of progression in the main game. You need a handful to unlock the speedway here, but you could get to this point without any orbs. We'll run into a small 8 orb requirement here pretty soon, so if these aren't tickling your fancy, you can definitely skip them for now. Back in Autumn Plains, we'll find money bags at the base of this ladder and pay him to learn how to climb. This leads us to the game's desert-inspired level, Scorch. I'm really not a big fan of this one. I usually like a good Middle Eastern desert-inspired level, but this one doesn't have anything going on creatively that puts it outside of that trope. It's got camels, scimitars, genies that might be culturally insensitive, I'm not sure. The orb challenges are nothing to write home about, and the level's really short. Plus, these Hansel and Gretel NPCs have to be the worst characters yet.
Spyro, you make a great sequence.
It's the only level in Spyro 2 that I feel doesn't really add anything unique to the game. It just feels like filler, and therefore it's my least favorite. Sorry to all the Scorch lovers out there. Fracture Hills is the next world we find in the Autumn Plains castle, and if you agree with me that Scorch was a bit too by the book and boring, you'll be happy to hear that Fracture Hills offers something fresh. The Satyr inhabitants have been encapsulated in stone by these stone monsters. Spyro needs to free each one so they can play their bagpipes that have the power to chip away at the stone that has also encapsulated their castle. And for whatever reason, these fawns have a Valley Girl accent.
Well, hello there, Mr. Dragon. You're pretty cute for a quadruped.
But apparently that was too much fun, and it was replaced with a Celtic accent in the Reignited trilogy.
Well, hello there, Mr. Dragon. You're pretty cute for a quadruped.
I realize this is very petty, and if it was the other way around, I'd probably be complaining more. Fracture Hills features one of the larger and more unorthodox maps. There's an upper and lower level. The upper is where the main objective is, where you free the satyrs. The lower, all the rock monsters be living. Unlike other levels, here there's not a lot of barriers that railroad you into where you're progressing. Normally this is a bad thing because it can lead to the player potentially getting lost. But the distinction between the upper and lower level is so clear, and after a few minutes in the level it's pretty obvious that all the satyrs are up top, and not down under with the rock monsters, or earth shapers as this game calls them. They're actually a huge pain to deal with if you don't know that you have to charge them repeatedly into the lava to actually kill them. Despite that, the main cause of death here is likely going to be the enemies up top. Everything everything's out to kill you in this level. The bushes, the bees, the trees. The theme of these ordinary natural objects being enemies is definitely going to trip new players up because, you know, trees and bushes haven't attacked you up until this point. Apart from me being bad at these games, the reason that they still get me today is the wind-up animation is so short on the attacks. I suppose the compromise is they all die in one fire breath. The true challenge in this level is found in the orb mission where you need to protect this alchemist. You do need Spyro's next ability, Headbutt, to start it, so you will have to backtrack. This is the one that gave me the most trouble as a child. The goat man needs to deliver a potion to Hunter, but there's a bunch of those rock monsters in the way. Spyro needs to charge them, pushing them out of the way so he doesn't drop the potion. The path to Hunter is actually pretty short, but the twist here is that the man you are leading is half blind, so he will take the worst possible route getting there. As a result, you'll need to double back a lot and charge monsters you've already charged, making sure everything's like 15 feet away from him. I actually enjoyed this much more than I thought I would on my replay, but I think this is the absolute worst one to go in blind to. One quick side note about Fracture Hills that I find a bit disappointing, it uses the same music track as Idle Springs. I think the track fits both levels just fine. I think it's a bit more suited for Idle Springs. Thankfully, this is something the Reignited trilogy remedied, as we get a slightly remixed version there. So there you have it, Fracture Hills. I really like it, but I also understand why it's so divisive, much like the bagpipe song the satyrs play. The outro cutscene always made me feel bad for the stone people, like I was on the wrong team or something. Before we can access the last 2 levels of Autumn Plains, we have our first orb check of 8 orbs. It's so low, it's more of like a friendly reminder, like, hey, don't forget about these. Once this door is unlocked, you can not only access the last 2 levels, but you can also access the entirety of Autumn Plains. Something you definitely don't want to neglect because this hub world has some of the coolest hidden orbs in the entire game. Additionally, probably the best single glide in the entire Spyro franchise. Shady Oasis is okay. Even Moneybags knows it's not that special.
No one's been through that portal in years. I thought I'd never find a sucker. I mean, you're a shrewd customer, Spyro.
Your objective here is to flame, charge, or spit at these trees to make it drop an apple, where this hippo will eat it, become obese, and open the door, letting Spyro progress. Very good music track here, but the level design has one problem. Once you've actually completed the level, gotten all the doors open, you'll likely be hunting down this teleporting gem vase, or doing the orb mission where you need to chase down these lamp thieves. The issue is the level is not really open enough to accommodate these missions. If you go to a lower portion of the level by mistake, you're likely going to have to retread ground. And I mean, it's not like other Spyro levels don't do this. It's just so much more noticeably boring in Shady Oasis. Progressing involves going down these long corridors, which are likely already empty because you've killed all the enemies in there. There's no clever glide spots or shortcuts to get around in these corridors, it's just hold square. Once you make it to the end, there's a lot of options to take your glide, but in between and before that, not so much. After Shady Oasis, we have the last level of Autumn Plains. Magma Cone is my favorite world of the bunch. The premise of the world is quite simple. Spyro needs to help these blue people set up and throw a party. But the fun-hating Earthshapers from Fracture Hills are back and they've opened a volcano. Their plan is quite simple. Use the volcano and their weapons to murder all of the blue people. My favorite part is how death is so inconsequential to the denizens of Magma Cone. The level opens with this blue guy getting murdered and his friend just treating it as the most minor inconvenience. Random death and violence just seem to be a prevailing theme here, and I'm all for it. I've neglected to bring it up till now, but these intro and outro cutscenes for the different worlds in Spyro 2 are fantastic. These are exclusive to Spyro 2. Spyro 1 didn't have them, and 3 dropped them for whatever reason. Spyro 3 is a great game and all, but I think the worlds lost a lot of flavor by dropping these. They may seem inconsequential, but they really add so much personality per world. They're funny, lighthearted, and give you a taste of the world before you actually go in. You get to see what the conflict is, what the good characters are like, what the bad characters are like. Some hit better better than others, but you can tell that there was a lot of care and creativity put into these. Magma Cone being a great example of these done right. On top of that, Magma Cone also features my personal favorite music track in the game. I wish it had a cool title that I could say right now, but it is just called Magma Cone. Relative to what we've seen lately, Magma Cone is really short and easy. To progress, you'll need to kill the Earth Shapers by charging them into these different death traps the blue people have set up. It's kind of funny, they're all just like on a platter for you to kill them. There's a hidden orb challenge under the first volcano with Hunter where you need to race him and collect these crystal popcorn pieces. It's alright. I mean, I hate that Hunter's hoarding orbs from us again, but it's not nearly as interesting as the orb challenge at the end of the level.
Here we are on the night of the big party, and we don't have anything to celebrate with. If you could fly, maybe you could do something about it.
Some lizards have stolen the party hats for tonight's party and Spyro needs to get them back. This part's always a good time. It takes place at Magma Cone's big set piece, the actual volcano, and gives you everything you could ask for in an orb challenge. The super fly ability, a lot of verticality, an interesting way to kill the enemies, that being you gotta pick up these rocks and spit it at them. It's fun and at the same time kinda challenging, and the premise that we're going to the lengths of murder for these party hats is just the cherry on top. And that's it for talismans. All we gotta do now in Autumn Plains is fight Gulp.
Say goodbye, Flame Breath. Gulp, lunchtime.
Gulp is hard, one of the legitimate challenges in this game. He's got 10 pips of health and a variety of attacks that are not easy to dodge. Just like Crush, you're always actively doing something in this fight. Most of the time that's dodging whatever attack he's throwing at you, but this time around you're going to be looking for items that will be dropped by birds that you can use offensively. The twist is that Gulp can use those items offensively as well. So much of this fight is a race for resources, who can reach the barrel or the rocket first. It's a really cool mechanic. It makes it feel like Gulp is doing everything in his power to get the upper hand. This is especially true near the end of the fight when the birds start dropping fodder that you can heal with, and he can use it to heal as well. For the uninitiated, fodder is just the animals that Spyro can flame or charge and get health back from. While I'm here, I might as well bring it up. Spyro 2, as well as several other Insomniac games, feature something called skill points. These are basically secret objectives within the game. Think of them like PlayStation trophies or Xbox achievements before those existed. One of the more difficult ones to achieve is defeating Gulp without taking any damage. Not to get ahead of myself, but there are rewards for getting all 16 skill points in the game, both in Reignited and Original. The reward does differ. In the Original, you get to see still images of epilogues for all the worlds, and the Reignited trilogy, you get to see concept art. So for those of you going for full completion, Gulp might be a big stopper for some. Or you can just cheat and use the Super Flame. After defeating Gulp, we are rewarded with a cutscene where Ripto falls off a cliff. Everyone thinks Ripto's dead, and Alora rewards Spyro with a chair.
Since you've done so much for Avalar, and since I know you really missed being on vacation, we really wanted to do something nice for you. It's not much, but we hope you like it.
Wow, this is...
I've got to go check on the professor in the winter tundra. He's still trying to fix the super portal so we can send you home.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
As you might expect, there's still some more game to go. Ripto is back, and saying that he's taking matters into his own hands is an understatement.
I persuaded that fat bear moneybags to sell me a few bombs. This is just what I need for a new scepter.
It was only lightly emphasized at the beginning, but Ripto had a scepter that Gulp accidentally ate, so we don't really know what him getting back his scepter means. It seems a little bit out of nowhere, but it's really just a MacGuffin for the super portal. Without it, there's no Dragon Shores, and with it, there's no Ripto fight. One more slight nitpick, it's a little weird that this red jewel looks so similar to the red jewel that Ripto already has on his chest. Would this one not work for a scepter as well? Oh no, I'm probably the only one who cares about this.
You little fools! After I destroy you all with my new scepter, I'm going to rename this place Riptonia!
Also, the sound effect you're about to hear sounds like somebody pushed a stack of books off a table. So here we go, Winter Tundra, the last hub world. If you were expecting to see a hub world based around the spring season, I'm sorry to say, one does not exist, at least in the retail release. Insomniac themselves actually confirmed a spring hub world was never planned from the beginning. They actually stated that Glimmer at the start of the game was supposed to be the spring season stand-in, but that certainly did not stop fans from wanting. Throughout 2018, there was a Spyro fan game entitled Spyro 2 Spring Savannah. Development was done by Reddit user user Monocled Potato and his team. This fan game was meant to emulate what a spring homeworld would have been like. The scope for this project included full voice acting, original music, and original levels. Unfortunately, development on the project seems to have stopped due to another Spyro fan game being developed by a different team entitled Spyro Myths Awaken, receiving a cease and desist letter from Activision, who now own the Spyro IP. Very unfortunate to hear about the cancellation. Major props to all the developers that worked on this, as it really satiates my inner child seeing this actualized. It would have been so cool to see a spring hub world in the Reignited trilogy. I guess the justification for not adding new content is we had the entire trilogy in that collection, so I'm not too upset.
Spyro, Ripto's still alive, and he's locked us out of the castle. If you can collect enough orbs, you'll be able to get the power crystal back from Ripto, and we can send you to Dragon Shores.
This is the point of the game where the primary objective switches from collecting talismans to collecting orbs. To just fight Ripto and finish the game, we need to collect 40 out of the 64 total orbs. So hopefully you've already started building yourself a little stash. If you're still a ways off, not to worry, because Winter Tundra has quite a few to offer. It's a truly beautiful hub world. Despite having a wintertime aesthetic, there's still a sense of tranquility and warmth found within it. It's certainly the smallest of the three, even at face value, but you'll find that it's jam-packed with collectibles and hidden paths. The doorway to the main structure is closed due to a rock in front of it. Luckily, Moneybags is right there to teach you the appropriate ability to deal with it, for a small fee of course.
Seems like an inopportune time to be a spendthrift, Spyro, but I'll be here, rest assured.
This is where we learn Spyro's last ability, Head Bash. Simply press triangle in the air and Spyro can smash objects below with his head. Apart from being used to get gems out of rocks and open special containers, there's like one enemy that it proves to be useful against, but it looks pretty cool. It's also retained alongside the other two abilities in Spyro 3. It doesn't pull like a Mega Man where Spyro forgets all his abilities in the next game. Before we enter the Winter Tundra castle walls, we have two levels to run through, Mystic Marsh and Cloud Temples. Both have a sort of magic theme going on, and they use this really ugly human model. Even by PS1 standards, I mean, this thing is ugly. Mystic Marsh is a gem of a Spyro level. It's the home of these water wizards, and for some reason their fountain has turned off. What makes Mystic Marsh unique is the progression is handled differently compared to other levels we've seen up to this point. The end goal is right up the cliff in front of you. To reach it, you need to activate this spring power-up by killing 20 enemies. Relative to what we've seen so far, 20 is a pretty big number, but this stage is just littered with stuff to murder. The enemies have this Avatar The Last Airbender thing going on, where every animal is a hybrid of two. There's rhino snails, elephant snails, pufferfish platypuses, and I'm not really sure what these purple monkey things are. Once you've spilled enough blood, the spring power-up will activate, allowing you to go to the top of the cliff. Here you find the root of the fountain problem. In a pretty funny scene, it turns out the water wizard who is assigned to operate the fountain had just fallen asleep.
I must have dozed off there. Golly, looks like I let the fountain switch off. Here, take this orb and, don't mention my little nap to Hydrar, okay?
Notice that he does not give you a talisman, but instead an orb. This is a nudge to the player, telling them that these are becoming more and more important. You can find the professor on the lower level where he has an orb challenge in the form of a fetch quest. He's lost his pencil and he wants you to trade up for it with an egg. It might be a little cryptic if you haven't been paying attention to the level's landmarks, but if you've been exploring, you'll notice that some things in the level are out of place, like this family of ducks or this bird's nest. There's also this safari man who wants you to chase down these flying squirrel creatures.
Ah, Spyro, a friendly face. A bunch of rotten thieves have stolen the spark plugs, and I'm stuck here.
This is the one that gave me the most trouble in my recent playthrough. It's a much harder version of the lamp thieves in Shady Oasis. Not only are these guys wicked fast, but they'll swim in the water, they'll go on top of the trees, and if you fall down, you'll likely lose track of them, and you gotta find them again. It's a nightmare. Not to mention the music track here is straight fire. Next up is Cloud Temples. The main issue here is all these red warlocks are turning the animals to stone. It has a nice Asian aesthetic, and as far as the progression goes, it's pretty standard. It does play host to one of the more infamous orb challenges.
I'm a secret agent.
I'm going to my secret hideout. I'm not leaving unless you hide behind that tree so you can't see me.
Oddly enough, this is the only mission in the game where you have to disobey the NPC to complete it. As a child, I just hid behind the tree and let him go. So time for a little bit of Metal Gear Spyro. Simply follow Agent Zero and hide behind an object when he turns around. I think the game's pretty fair on if it considers Spyro to be hidden or not. It's the only stealth mission in the game, and I feel like it's a pretty good legitimate mix-up of the core gameplay. Obviously, Spyro was not meant to be a stealth game, and the controls can be a little finicky when trying to position yourself behind a tree, but I gotta give it to Insomniac. This one was fun to return to. And just in general, I think it's really impressive that it's hard to find 2 orb challenges in this game that are super similar to one another. I'm not saying every single one is a masterpiece, but for how much they do vary, they did a really solid job. Next up, we have Robotica Farms, one of my favorite just concepts for a level. There's been a lot of European and Asian influence on the levels thus far, so it's really refreshing to have a level filled with robots speaking in a southern drawl.
Howdy, Spyro. These here pests have infested our farm. Could you find the time to help us get rid of them?
As a kid, I always thought it was a little odd to have robots in Spyro 2, but you think back to Spyro 1 and, there was Metalhead in that game. And I've really come to appreciate the irony of robot farmers. Robotica Farms features some of the most resilient enemies. There's these wasps throwing exploding Donkey Kong barrels at you, these spinning boys that you gotta flip over and use a head bash to kill. They certainly don't mess around here. Also, these seesaws have always reminded me of nail filers. Here we also see the last supercharged challenge, and it is quite a doozy. It involves a lot of tight turns and clearing out these giant pumpkins. Not for the faint of heart, but it is relatively short. The only downside is if you fall off, it's rather hard to restart.
A fine piece of steering that was, Dragon. Here, take this thingamajig I found in the cow pen.
I really can't get enough of these guys. There's another orb challenge where you need to protect these scarecrows from a swarm of bugs. It's very frustrating because you have to kill them all close together, otherwise they'll respawn. Spyro never seems like he can flame high enough to get them. My only piece of advice is use the flutter. We've finally reached our last traditional stage, Metropolis. Another robots meet nature inspired level. This time, farm animals have taken over the metro. It's a little more quirky and less inspired, I think, than Robotica Farms, but still a pretty solid level. There's a really cool orb mission in the middle of the level where you've got to kill this ox on an ice rink.
A vicious ox has taken over our armory.
It's the only other boss that we see outside of the 3 main antagonists. I guess I'm classifying it as a boss because it does have a health bar. It's much less involved than Crush, Gulp, and Ripto. It's still a really good time, and it makes me realize how rare it is we get to skate on ice in this game. As we reach the end of the last stage, a surprise awaits us.
It's a first for Avalar, a combination power-up. Thank goodness you're here to test it out. These invading sheep in their spaceships must be stopped.
Side note, I'm not very big on the robot voices here. Like the robot lady says, we get to use Avalar's first combination power-up of Superfly and Superflame. There are 2 waves of UFOs you have to destroy, and it's super easy. It's really just a spectacle. Oddly enough, I ran into a glitch on the second wave where I had destroyed all the UFOs, but I wasn't getting the orb for it. Kind of strange, being that I've never ran into a glitch like this in my many years of Spyro 2. Metropolis is one of those levels that I like conceptually. The orb challenges are fun, the level design is great. It's just all the other little things that bring this one down for me. The music and character design is just okay. I really don't like the voices or the aesthetic. Something I neglected to bring up, but you actually need 25 orbs to even enter this level. So while it and Robotica Farms are close to each other in terms of proximity, you're likely going to this one last. And it doesn't really look like a last level. It doesn't have that last level feel. I'm not saying every last level has to look like the fires of hell, but being that Ripto looks like the devil, maybe that would have worked. I would love to see Ripto's world, kind of like how we got to see Nasty's world in Spyro 1. Again, this is a perfectly fine level with a lot of great aspects. I would say it beats a lot of Spyro 3 levels. It just doesn't vibe with me personally. After Metropolis, the cleanup portion of the game begins. Now that we have all 3 power-ups, we can go back and nab whatever orbs and gems that we missed. Again, we only need 40 orbs to fight Ripto. If you're short, don't forget about the speedways and the orbs just laying around in the hub world. And before you go in with the bare minimum, keep in mind, if you want to access Dragon Shores, the bonus level afterwards, you'll need 55 orbs and 8,000 gems. So whenever you're ready, make your way to the top of the stairs of the Winter Tundra Castle and enter the double doors. The fight against Ripto takes place in this beautiful arena under a full moon. Before we get started, Ripto patiently waits in the background as our fairy explains the rules of the fight to us. So how this works is you can't damage Ripto with a normal flame or charge. You need to damage him with the orbs that you've collected. Unfortunately, they don't just give them to you in a bag. I would have loved to see the cutscene where they devised this plan, but they decided to give Hunter these Charizard wings and have him fly around the arena dropping orbs. Unfortunately, this means Ripto can also pick up the orbs and use them against you, harkening back to the Gulp fight. Apart from the fact that this is a stupid idea, this makes for some great gameplay. Despite the fact that we just spent the last 10 hours collecting exclusively green orbs, you'll see that in addition to them, Hunter is dropping red and blue orbs. After either Spyro or Ripto collects 3, the last orb you collect will determine which power-up either one of you gets. A red orb will grant Super Flame, blue, Supercharge, and green this Acid Breath. Ripto has his own similar variants, and he'll constantly be shooting you with his scepter while neither of you are powered up. It's not as difficult as the Gulp fight purely because you can get multiple hits off with the same power-up. Also, the fact that fodder is dropped more often in this fight helps a lot. Once Ripto's health bar runs out, he'll use his scepter and summon a mechanical Gulp going into phase 2. I would actually say this phase of the fight is a little easier as your target is so much larger, not to mention that Hunter will start dropping fodder for you to get health back from. Mecha Gulp can grab the orbs just like Ripto and he has a whole new slew of attacks to show. I like these attacks because they inhibit you from doing the one thing you've probably been doing for 90% of the game, and that is charging. You have to back up and pay attention to where the hurt boxes are going to be if you want to get through this flawlessly. Or just charge with the best of them and make sure you're getting the orbs before Gulp. Once Gulp goes down, you'll move on to the final phase of the fight. It's a great spectacle as Mecha Gulp explodes into these golden orbs, Ripto transforms one into a flying mount while Spyro grabs another to get Superfly, and our third phase begins in the air after Ripto destroys the platform below. This actually just occurred to me, but this is exactly what the combination power-up at the end of Metropolis was preparing us for. Hunter is now gone, that means no more fodder to heal, it's just you and Ripto. And his bird. As long as you lead your shots and pay attention to Ripto's attacks, he should go down without a problem. And with that, we get our Power Gem MacGuffin back, allowing us to go to Dragon Shores and say goodbye.
I suppose you have to go now?
Yeah, I'd better. They'll be missing me in the Dragon Worlds, and I've still got a vacation to take. I need it more than ever now.
Before you go, I think that Moneybags has something he wants to give you.
I most certainly do not.
Hunter? Spyro, Moneybags is very sorry that he made you pay so much on your way through Avalar. We want you to keep the gems as a reward for helping us.
Wow, thanks. Sparks, can you grab them? Let me just type in the new coordinates and... there! Spyro, you can now go to Dragon Shores.
And there you have it, Spyro 2, but we're not quite done. Like the professor just said, we now can go to Dragon Shores. Although you do need the 8,000 gems and 55 orbs to enter. Dragon Shores functions as its own mini-level. In a nice little twist, it's run by the Norks, the enemy faction from Spyro 1.
Just for kicks, eh, Spyro?
You'll spend your time here doing these carnival games to collect tokens. Collecting all the tokens unlocks the game's movie theater where you can view all the previous cutscenes. You won't find any enemies or bosses in Dragon Shores, it's just a big celebration of Spyro 2. You'll find a ton of the game's NPCs hanging out. You can dunk the Yeti from Colossus in the dunk tank. The love boat ride always gets a laugh out of me. This man right here really should be put on some kind of list. It's a really good time, and it's great to see that new assets were made for it. I alluded to it earlier, but if you manage to get all skill points in the game, you can unlock this epilogue. It reveals the fate of Ripto, Gulp, and Crush, and a lot of the other characters we've met throughout our adventures in Avalar. Interestingly, there's a section that shows cut characters as well. I can understand why they left some of these designs on the cutting room floor.
Mr. Fistus? Mr. Fistus?
That's what the ladies call me.
Mr. Fistus?
Nervous Tickus?
Mr. Fistus? Mr. Fistus?
There's one final reward and you can find it behind this locked door in the park. It will only open once you've collected all 10,000 gems and all 64 orbs. Behind the door is the permanent Super Flame. Spyro's normal flame attack will be replaced with the Super Flame, and you can take it outside of Dragon Shores to other levels. It's a nice little extra to have. It definitely trivializes bosses, and it's great to see that it made a return in the Reignited trilogy. Now that we've seen everything that Dragon Shores has to offer, it feels like just as much of a vacation to us as it does to Spyro.
Come on, Sparks. We've got a lot of vacation to catch up on.
So there we have it, Spyro 2 beginning to end. If you're someone who grew up with Crash Bandicoot or Mario and have always been looking over the fence at Spyro, this or Spyro 1 are great ones to start with. The hub worlds, the level design, the NPCs, Insomniac managed to inject so much personality, care, and polish into this entire game. Same goes for Toys for Bob, the developers of the Reignited trilogy. They really managed to capture the same magic that the PS1 originals had. So that brings us to the question, what's next? Will we see a Spyro 4? Well, it's hard to say. Being that it takes more development work for an original game versus a remake, and that Crash 4 didn't sell as well as the Reignited trilogy or the Insane trilogy, maybe it just needs a little bit more time in the anticipation of them. Being that it's been 5 years since Reignited, it's quite possible we could hear something soon, so here's to hoping. With that, thank you so much for watching. This has been Shanmania. I've always wanted to do a video over Spyro 2. I've always wanted to do a longer form video, so this is the result of that, and feel free to let me know if it worked or not for you. Please stay safe out there. Don't forget to tip your waitresses. Feel free to hit all the buttons, and have a great rest of your night.